How come nobody is talking about Aaron Rodgers to the Indianapolis Colts? Because to me, it makes all the sense in the world. What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here to argue why the Colts should be the team trading for Aaron Rodgers and why Aaron Rodgers should love the Colts as a destination. Before I argue why Aaron Rodgers and the Colts would be a match made in heaven, make sure that you do Gronk, spike that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more BLV just like this. And also get in that comments and let me know if you think I'm right, if you think I'm wrong. Let me know in the comment section below. The Colts and Aaron Rodgers, does it work or does it not? The one team that nobody is talking about when it comes to Aaron Rodgers this offseason is the Indianapolis Colts. Often they're actually talking about the wrong horse. They should be talking about the Colt and not the Bronco. As we know, the Colts are rumored to be looking for a new quarterback this offseason. Their time with Carson Wentz didn't exactly work out. They're looking to move on from Carson Wentz, ditch him, trade him elsewhere, cut him maybe even, and then move on to an upgrade at the position. Now, what's interesting about the word upgrade, given an underline, how many quarterbacks out there on the market would necessarily give you a better chance than Carson Wentz? And I guess that depends on your preference of quarterbacks out there. But in my personal opinion, unless you land a big time quarterback, and I'm talking about Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers, because Deshaun Watson is not going to work because he's on the Texans. And I don't know if you guys know how the NFL works, but the Texans are not going to trade Deshaun Watson in their own division. So cut him out of there. You've got Russell Wilson, you've got Aaron Rodgers. Every other quarterback that could be on the market does not really feel to me as an upgrade. Jimmy Garoppolo, he's more conservative. They both have injury issues. Sure, maybe he's smarter. Maybe he's got a quicker release, but he certainly doesn't have the arm strength. He doesn't have the mobility that Carson Wentz offers, and he's not as good of an athlete as Carson Wentz. That's probably the most identical that you can go for in just a different way, shape, and form, a different archetype of player. Then you're starting to talk about, would we potentially be able to land a Derek Carr? Could we possibly get a Kirk Cousins or maybe a Matt Ryan? Okay, if those three guys are open for trade, then this completely changes the conversation. But I've heard nothing that suggests that any of those players are legitimately going to be traded this offseason. So the rest of the guys like Teddy Bridgewater that you could sign, Marcus Mariota that you could sign, Mitch Trubisky that you could sign, all these players are not going to give you more than Carson Wentz. Jameis Winston's very similar to Carson Wentz. He's not going to give you much more than what you previously had. Plus, you'd be looking at a new quarterback in this system instead of building on what you already had with Carson Wentz. So it doesn't make a lot of sense for the Colts to move on from Wentz unless they go with an upgrade at the position. Now, some people may be saying, Mitch, whoa, they could go with a rookie. But no, they couldn't. Why? Because the Indianapolis Colts roster right now is ready to shine. It's in a position where they're a couple pieces away from being a serious Super Bowl contender. I look at the Colts and I see a quarterback upgrade and another wide receiver addition from being a top team in that conference, the AFC, which to me is the tougher of the two conferences. And again, as Rap Sheet himself said, they are looking for a new quarterback because Chris Ballard is constantly looking to improve. He's looking to put a quarterback on a team that is young, that is hungry, and that is ready for a Super Bowl competition. They've been looking to do this the last 2 years consecutively. They tried it with Phillip Rivers. They tried it with Carson Wentz. Those guys weren't the answer. Now go up a level. You go from let's take a chance at a mid-tier quarterback to let's take a chance and a swing at a top-tier MVP caliber quarterback. It's the logical step in your mind. You're not going lower here. You're not trying to rebuild. You're not trying to go young. The logical step, in my opinion, if you're Chris Ballard, is we tried the mid-tier. Those guys didn't work out. We're sick of it. Let's try to go for the big fish. And it's clearly not that simple. It doesn't work that way. But when you look at the Colts and compare them to a team like the Broncos, who have been heavily rumored to be in the sweepstakes for Aaron Rodgers, both teams have nearly identical cap space, and that's removing the possibility of Carson Wentz being traded or being cut, which would open even more, like big time cap space, where you're talking about the Colts having a ton of money to work with to sign Rodgers, maybe even to pull Devontae Adams from Green Bay, or to just upgrade that receiving core, upgrade the secondary, upgrade whatever needs upgrading to make this a Super Bowl team. This Colts team lost 5 one-score games a year ago and was very close. If they didn't slip up on the Jacksonville Jags in the final week of the season, they felt like a lock to make the playoffs. And for much of late last season, they appeared to be a dark horse in the AFC because of how well their roster is built. We knew that their weakness all last year was the reliability and the consistency of the quarterback position. If you solve that position, you are talking about a legitimate team here. Within this conversation, you have to look at it from both perspectives. You have to look at it from Aaron Rodgers' perspective. Why would he want to play for the Colts? And of course, you have to look at it from the Colts' perspective. Why would they want Aaron Rodgers? Maybe he's going to cost too much money. Maybe he's too much to put up with. Maybe they have to get rid of all of their future. They have to sell the farm to get Aaron Rodgers. Well, both of those things could potentially come together to make sense. And when you look at this team and how it's constructed, I would argue for Aaron Rodgers' sake that the Indianapolis Colts are better set up for success right now entering this offseason than a team like the Denver Broncos. And I understand that the Denver Broncos are very flashy because they have a lot of young skill players that are very high profile and us fantasy players fall in love with. Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Javonte Williams, Noah Fant. All of these players have been highly touted, highly discussed, and we want to see them unlock their potential. But when you look at Indianapolis as a football team, and I'm not discrediting the Broncos as a bad or a poor fit for Rodgers, I think it's a good fit for Aaron Rodgers, but I do feel the Colts are a better fit. Why? Let's start with the coach, okay? What people don't understand is that Frank Reich is the most underrated coach in the NFL. I am here to state that now, so if you would like to disagree with me, let me know in the comments. But to me, Frank Reich is the most underrated coach in the NFL. What he has done on the offensive side of the football throughout his tenure with Indianapolis, including his time in Philadelphia, has been masterful. The way that he calls the game. I love his approach towards play calling. I love the way that he leads his football team. I love how he has a vision in mind for the cohesion of his offense, his defense, his game plans. And then on top of that, he dictates great balance. He does a great job with all facets of offense, from play action to screen game to run game to pass game to drop back pass game. All of it is fabulous. And I really enjoy Frank Reich as a coach, a decision maker on fourth down, a guy that's bold, a guy that's progressive, a guy that I just would love to play for. He's a former quarterback who can definitely relate to somebody like Aaron Rodgers, and I feel like get the best out of Aaron Rodgers, seeing it from his lens and seeing it from his point of view. And this is something that Rodgers has never really had in his career, that quarterback perspective from his head coach. And yes, you have the built-in relationship with Hackett in Denver. I understand that, but you don't know what you don't know if you're Aaron Rodgers. Frank Reich is fantastic, and he's proven. Frank Reich has had 3 out of 4 winning seasons, and really the only season that they didn't have a winning record, they went 7-9, and a majority of it was spent with Jacoby Brissett as their quarterback. So clearly he's done some good things. He just hasn't been able to get over the hump because of the quarterback position, because pretty much Andrew Luck When he left and he retired, it threw a wrench into everything that the Colts were planning with Chris Ballard in the roster and Frank Reich coaching. But Reich has produced top 10 offenses the last 2 seasons with mid-tier to below average quarterback play. Carson Wentz, they had the 9th best offense in football last year in points for, and then the 8th best offense in points with Phillip Rivers, who really, if you watch the Colts, Rivers had a nice final season of his career, but clearly he was not the same player that he was for a majority of his career in San Diego. Plus, on top of that, I love Frank Reich as the head coach and the play caller, but you also throw in a proven defensive mind like Gus Bradley, who's had success pretty much everywhere he has been, to take over a familiar scheme with useful players for that scheme in Indianapolis, and it just feels like that combo is so much greater and better than anything Denver can offer. But just imagine, if you're Aaron Rodgers, what you could add to a Frank Reich offense, or what you could add to this defense by helping them at that quarterback position. So don't put yourself into this trap with Denver where you're thinking that this defense is going to be the same even without Vic Fangio. That's a rant for another time, but the Broncos are not going to be exactly the same as they were a year ago. They have plenty of free agents, just as the Colts do, but I feel like the Colts' foundation currently entering this offseason is much stronger because all of their core pieces are there. Offensively, running back. In his prime, Jonathan Taylor. You have maybe the best running back in the NFL right there, who's dynamic as both a runner and a receiver. Imagine how defenses would have to play Indianapolis if they had to deal with Aaron Rodgers and Jonathan Taylor in that backfield. How could you possibly stop that duo from a run-pass perspective? If you overplay the pass, you've got to deal with Jonathan Taylor. If you overplay the run, Rodgers is going to torch you. That would be unbelievable from my perspective. Michael Pittman is just kind of finding his rhythm as a number 1 wide receiver in the NFL. I thought he had a nice breakout season last year, and I believe he's only getting better. This might be the best Michael Pittman Jr. that we've ever seen next season, and he's basically a number 1, maybe a high-end 2. Like I said, you might have to add to that receiving core, especially with T.Y. Hilton and company being free agents. You can find receivers, especially with all the money that the Colts have. They can find a number 2 or a number 3 or a guy of Rodgers' preference, or maybe even Devontae Adams, just throwing it out there. You have an offensive line that maybe isn't full right now, but does have core pieces that are really good players. Like Quentin Nelson is arguably the best guard in football. Ryan Kelly had a down year last year, but is overall a very good player at center. Braden Smith is locked down and locked and loaded for next year and is very, very good. So yes, you'd have to find a blindside left tackle, but you could always bring back Eric Fisher or whatever. It's not too far of a stretch to find somebody on a 1-year, 2-year deal, a veteran who would probably love to play with Aaron Rodgers out there on the market. There's actually plenty of tackles out there this free agency. And then you have secondary playmakers like the old reliable Jack Doyle at tight end, Nyheim Hines as the 3rd down receiving running back. Maybe you bring back Mo Alley Cox. But the offense is well constructed. A lot of it is built off of how good Frank Reich ties together plays. And I feel with Rodgers at the helm of that play calling, it would be something masterful to watch. And on the defensive side of the football, they're solid. I wouldn't call the Colts like a fantastic shutdown defense, but the Colts are a defense that makes plays and gets the ball for their offense. They were the number 1 defense last year in forcing turnovers. So maybe that's not a sticky stat or something that carries season to season, but it's something that a guy like Aaron Rodgers, a quarterback, would love to have. And they play fundamentally sound. They certainly would under Gus Bradley, and they have playmakers at all 3 levels. Up front on the defensive line, you have the young Kwity Paye. In the middle, the big monster DeForest Buckner, who's a game changer. I think Stewart's an underrated player. Linebacker, of course, Darius Leonard, and my guy, Bobby OK, because I don't really usually know how to say his name, so I'm just going to say Bobby OK. That's your nickname for the day. And then in the secondary, you got Julian Blackmon, who's going to be back this season. I like him as a younger player. And of course, Moore as well as probably the best nickel corner in the NFL. So at all 3 levels, you have foundation players that you can build your defense around and twist the knobs here and there and find the nice little diamond in the rough as Chris Ballard does to fill in the corner position or whatever they've got to do. But that's a top 10 defense there, especially with an offense quarterbacked by Aaron Rodgers. And like I said, they make plays. If you're looking at external things outside of the roster, the division, the AFC South, the Titans are the only capable team. Everybody else sucks. And the AFC West, using again the Broncos example, Derek Carr, Justin Herbert, and of course Patrick Mahomes to deal with there. And those are all teams that have chemistry and built-in familiarity, unlike the Broncos, who'd be behind the 8 ball in that category. It wouldn't take long for the Colts to get up to speed, given that they can beat up on the Texans, beat up on the Jags, and pick up 4 wins right there. You don't got to deal with the cold. The dome is also very nice, and you play a lot of games in this division in nice weather in the AFC South. And if you're the Colts, obviously you would want a quarterback as capable, as good, as great as Aaron Rodgers. 2 years in a row MVP, at the top of his game, still a elite player, and looking to get that ring, I would assume. So he's hungry. And I feel like a happy Aaron Rodgers is always a better Aaron Rodgers, so maybe him on that first year in a new team, kind of like Tom Brady, would just have a different type of energy. The only real question I would have about this potential move here for the Colts, for the Packers, for Aaron Rodgers is, do the Colts have enough ammunition to actually get this done? Just due to the fact that they lost their first round pick due to the Carson Wentz madness, and I'm not sure if the Packers would be willing to accept a trade that doesn't have a first round pick this year. They could certainly work around that somehow, some way, and I would expect them to get something back for Carson Wentz as well, probably in the mid rounds or at least a late round pick. And then you've got the future seasons of 2023, 2024 down the road that you could put in this package as well that might actually be more beneficial to the Packers potentially. So I feel like if that's the only hurdle, it's something that can be overcome. I don't think it's the biggest difference maker in the world, but I view the Colts as the team that should be all in on Aaron Rodgers. Yes, I agree that the Broncos would be a great fit, and I'll probably do a video on the Broncos as well. I just don't understand why the Colts aren't being discussed as a real prime opportunity team for the Aaron Rodgers trade market. And that's why I'm making this video, because I see the avenue for this to be great and for this to make the Colts and Aaron Rodgers both very happy. So those are my thoughts on the Colts going all in for Aaron Rodgers. Let me know in the comments what you think. It's Mitch. Thanks for watching. Gronk, spike that like button and subscribe for more. Peace.